morning, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us for the Keys to Success in SEO featuring Thomas Broadus and Mr. Will Martin. Thank you so much for being here this morning. We really appreciate it. Before we get started with the presentation, I just want to let you know that the Mississippi Gulf Coast Chamber of Commerce's mission is to connect, inform, advocate, and develop. And we're doing that through programs such as this. So if you're interested in becoming a chamber member, we are back in the office, most of us, but you can find our information on our website at mscoastchamber.com. I would like to thank you all so much for joining us this morning, especially our CEO, Miss Adele Lyons. Adele, are you there? Do you want to talk to us this morning? She might not be at her desk right now.
I'm in. Hey, Thomas, and nice to meet you from afar. Will, thank y'all so much for your time. Thomas, I know you tried to get away, but we won't let you. We keep pulling you back over this way. But you know, you're such a great speaker and presenter, and always have good information that is valuable and beneficial to our members in the business community as a whole. So we very much appreciate it, and you know, we like keeping connected with folks who've been here before that are ambassadors for the Gulf Coast and the business community. So thank you so much, and we look forward to hearing what you have to say. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you.
Yeah, good morning.
Thank you, Adele. And I'd also like to thank our sponsors today, Gulf Coast Veterinary Emergency Hospital, Goodwill Industries of South Mississippi.
Hello, I'm Kimberly Hall with Goodwill of South Mississippi. We are delighted to be a sponsor of the Mississippi Gulf Coast Chamber for professional development. So we hope you enjoy your time today as you work through this seminar. Professional development is so important. Goodwill is all about eliminating poverty in South Mississippi and really helping our community members reach their fullest potential. And all of that starts with a plan. So again, enjoy your session today around professional development.
And Hancock Whitney Bank. And on that note, Hancock Whitney Bank does have a quick thing for us real quick. So let's get started with that.
The Coast Chamber is providing the business community with tools to support personal and professional growth. This is in alignment with Hancock Whitney's core values. At Hancock Whitney, we work hard to create opportunities for the people and the communities we serve. Helping our clients feel confident in their financial futures is our single most important job. Now more than ever, we believe in the importance of helping our communities grow and develop to its fullest potential.
Thank you so much, Emery. And thank you, Hancock Whitney, Goodwill Industries of South Mississippi, and Gulf Coast Veterinary Emergency Hospitals for your sponsorships. Also, throughout this presentation, if you have any questions, if you hover over the screen where our faces are, you'll see a Q&A button. Type your questions in there and we can answer them throughout. Thomas and Will said they have no problems with that, so bombard them with as many questions as you can. Also, on the right side of your screen, you'll see the chat box. You can type any questions in there. If you just have any comments throughout, please feel free to do that. But be aware that that is public and we can download it afterwards. And on that note, Thomas, I think I will turn it over to you.
Hi, everyone. Appreciate you joining today. Also, we have a great group. We're excited to be able to share with you some of the changes and really the keys to success in SEO. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Thomas Broadus. I'm the Director of Digital Strategy for Infinity Marketing, now located in South Carolina, but spent a whole lot of years on the Mississippi Gulf Coast working for another agency and born and bred right there in Pascagoula. So I know your area well. And when I left the coast, I was actually serving as a board member for the Gulfport Chamber of Commerce. So this again is a mission for me, and I love to give back to this community. So excited to join you today. And with that, I'll let Will take it off and let him tell you who he is.
Yeah, hello everyone. Good morning. My name is Will Martin, and I work with Thomas here at Infinity Marketing in Greenville, South Carolina, as the SEO specialist at our agency. And we're going to talk a lot about SEO, so I don't need to get into to that yet. But basically, I work closely with him for everything from websites to digital content, even social content, things like that, just making sure it's optimized for digital marketing purposes. And so, yeah, we're going to get into a lot more details about that, but that's an overview. I've been with the agency for about 8 years. I was a graphic designer before this in the marketing field. So I've been in marketing for probably close to 12 years total, from design to strategy to now web and SEO. So it's a little bit about my history.
Yeah, Will's got a really good holistic view on a lot of these things, and we'll see some of this as we go through the support that actually Will drafted and helped create for us. So let's get into it. Will, I want to double check. Can you see the screen? Do we see the keys to success is up now? Great.
I can. Yep.
Keep chat flowing. Katie, you'll just kind of cue us if you see something come in that we can stop and address, and we'll get right into it. So, Will, let's talk about first, what is SEO?
Well, Thomas, I'm glad you asked because I have an answer for you. But so just as a preface before we get into this, this session was kind of designed for if you have little to no knowledge of SEO. So some of this may be review for some of you if you've dabbled in SEO or if you've worked with someone for search engine optimization. So forgive us for being a little elementary at some points, but I just wanted to make sure that this is digestible and clear for everyone. So this is the definition of SEO that we kind of live by here at Infinity, and that is that SEO is the process of increasing the quantity and quality of a website's non-paid organic search traffic by increasing the website's search engine visibility. So basically that's just, our outlook is that the internet is the front window of the store, and we want you as close to that front window as possible so the most people can see your business and your product.
Yeah. I like to use the answer, right? It's the way that we make sure that your search engine or your website is the answer to somebody's search, and really wrapped into all those things. So you can do that in the paid realm, and you can do that in the organic with the organic, and we'll look at some of the numbers of why that matters and why you need to invest in that space. But let's look at that right now. So why does it matter? 93% of all online sessions begin with a search engine. If somebody's going to look at something, even if they know what it is or they know what the URL is, it will generally start with just typing in the search and not the full web address. And that will fire a response. Have a mixed medium of paid ads in the Google space and also the organic. Sometimes you're not always the first position. Sometimes you're not on the first page, but most of those searches, 93% plus, are starting in that experience. 75% of users never go past the first page. Well, what happens when I'm not on the first page? What's the normal user habit?
To either refine your search or bounce off. If you don't click on something on the first page, you typically go back up, add a few more clarifying words, just because psychologically that first page is the dependable results.
Yep. So everybody's done this. If it doesn't show up, I don't hit the second page. I don't go to the third page. I just change what I searched for and hoping to get there, which means that if you're not on the first page for a specific keyword or search, maybe you're on the second page, and we've got some tools that'll show you where you are in those different spaces, but it becomes very important. And here's why on this third stat: 97% of these clicks, right, to your website come from organic, not from the paid media that's supporting that. So you have to be visible, and it has to be important to the bottom line of what you're trying to do for whatever it is, whether it's a service or a good or an information base. That's why it matters. So what is the value? And Will's done some really strong research in this about predicting and actually showing what the organic traffic is worth to your website and what you actually have to pay to generate that traffic.
Yeah, so I looked at bleacherreport.com. If you're not familiar, it's a sports news website with scores and highlights, and they've got an app and stuff like that. Pretty robust website, probably not similar to any of our businesses, but just for the purposes of this case study, I wanted to look at their numbers. And in the paid search world, if you're familiar with that, it's a very clear-cut, kind of you pay for what you get type setup. If you want clicks, you pay per click, or CPC, cost per click, or price per click, pay per click, whatever you call it. And so I'm able to pull some of those numbers through some of our tools and resources. And so I wanted to compare the paid search traffic to the organic search traffic, and then figure out a way to assess the worth of that organic search traffic. Because for a lot of marketers and a lot of companies, that's where it breaks down. It's easy to display the value of paid traffic because you say, well, I paid for this many clicks and I got that many clicks. But SEO is a little different. SEO is more of an investment, which means, yes, it's a risk, but it also has a higher opportunity for greater ROI than the paid search. And so we don't discourage from using paid search. We actually recommend to use both of them in tandem with the same strategic approach to reach your goals. But for Bleacher Report, I pulled these numbers from December of last year, And in paid search traffic in December, they had 80,000 clicks. And when you look at the price per click of each of those keywords through Google Ads, we use SEMrush to pull that data, but that added up to about $137 worth of web traffic from paid search, the ads, the first few.
Yeah, that's 137,000, right? 130K, yeah.
To the organic side, on organic search, so the non-paid search results and clicks, they had 28 million clicks. And if you gave that Google ad value to those keywords that the clicks came from, that would be about $38 million worth of traffic. And so obviously they didn't pay that. You can go on to the next slide, Thomas, but these two, I can look at paid search, tell you what their investment was, search in December 29, $1,000. But I can guarantee you, and I don't have their financials or their budget or anything like that, but I can pretty much guarantee you that they're not paying $38 million a month for SEO. They're probably paying far less than that. If anybody wants to pay $38 million a month for SEO, my number is at the end of this. Give me a call. We will put you on the top of the list.
Yeah.
We could probably discount it a little bit, but this is just a good way to show that SEO is an investment, and there's a great potential to increase your web traffic exponentially by investing in SEO, especially right now. So one thing we're seeing right now with the current climate and the pandemic and everything is that a lot of people are finally realizing that their website is a very, very, very valuable resource. It might have been before, but now even more so, it's valuable. And so a lot of people are focusing more on SEO to increase that visibility.
A lot of our clients are investing already in the paid search category. Again, Infinity is a large agency. We've got 80 plus employees. We've got clients all over the United States. And every conversation, whether it's a startup, whether it's an entrepreneurial business, or whether it's an enterprise level, is like, what's our paid search investment? And very little thought giving to the organic and the SEO, really ongoing editing and optimization of that content. So it becomes very relevant to invest some of your dollars there because it's going to provide the really successful base of what you're going to be looking for. So the foundations that we really look at when we say, all right, so let's talk about your SEO. Let's think about what we want to do to really support the business or the website with that SEO or the content with that SEO. It's keyword. What do we need to know about the words that people are searching? And how are we going to discover and find those terms? It's topics. Are we finding the right topic that matches how that user is experiencing your brand or that makes you relevant to that user within your brand? And then ultimately, what are your competitors doing? Because you can learn a lot about that space competitively, because sometimes, and we do this all the time, is when you create a competitive analysis, there's going to be brands that show up that you weren't aware of because you may not think of them as a competitor. But the algorithms say, hey, you're all competing for the same keywords, so it makes them a competitor for that eyeball and for that space and for that position 1 through 10 on that front page of Google. So your competitor research is very, very valuable. Any thoughts here, Will, before we move on to the next one?
No, you covered it. Good.
Got it. So let's talk about 3 components. You've got on-page SEO, which are the things that happen within the page. That's going to be your content. That's going to be the amount of keywords that you use. It's going to be the things that you say that match that user's expectations. So the things that happen in your CMS, your content management system. It's off-page SEO. And these are the things that deal with maybe your link backs or working with other sites that drive good traffic to you. So that's important. It's also the things like your Google My Business page, how you show up there and how that link backs to you. It's your phone numbers and how they're listed online in other services and how those connect to what your website is saying. And then ultimately there's the technical SEO, which are the things within your website that the algorithms look for to make sure, hey, your page speed is on task or it's off, right? You're using a secure HTTPS with an SSL certificate or you're not. And it's all those other little things about if you're using a CMS that just generates a lot of code, is it generating in a way that is actually a positive for the Google and the other algorithms that are searching your website, or is it negative? So those are the things that you really can't control within your content. And then let's look specifically, and we'll walk us through what are the components of our on-page SEO we really need to be focusing on.
Yeah, so the top 4 components really of SEO, just to dig a little deeper in what Thomas said in the overview there, is your content. So this is the copy, the actual copy on the website that people can read, the imagery that's on your website, the graphical elements, all of that, that's considered content, and that's on-page SEO. But also the keywords. So within that content, what are the themes and the keywords that appear the most? And we don't focus solely on keywords in SEO anymore. You know, in 2009 we used to, but it's evolved, and I'll talk a little bit about that more later. But we look at not just specific keywords, but also semantically related keywords that have to do with that topic that all tie into the same general idea. And then the metadata, if you've seen a search results page, which we all have, the blue link that the links to the page on the search result, that's the title tag, and that's actually set in the code. And then the little paragraph under that is called the meta description. And these are 2 big important factors that inform a search engine what that page is about. And so it's important that your keywords are in there. It's important that those are readable, and they're written for humans, not a robot and not an algorithm, because humans are going to be reading it. And then the user experience, so the design and the layout of your website. And this is something that's become a lot more important, probably I'd say in the last 5 years. Just as technology has evolved, the kind of mobile first revolution that is kind of, to be honest, it's kind of old news now in 2020, but you know, most people are looking at digital websites and things like that on their phone. And so is it optimized for mobile? Is that user experience clear? Is it concise? Is it simple enough that anyone can use it? That kind of stuff. We consider that part of on-page SEO as well.
Well, we've got a couple questions, so I want to address these, and I think they're fun questions because they're ones that we get all the time. Is the first one, how quickly do you see results? Now, there have been examples. Will and I have worked together, tag teamed, if you will, and we've had next day #1 spot results, and that's a fact. We've done that before, but a lot of things had to be in alignment. We had to be topical, we had to be first out of the gate, and we had to create all the content and the pieces of SEO to make that happen. We can't always guarantee that, obviously. The next question was, well, how do I become the #1 result for an SEO result? And that answer is a lot of things. One, your content's got to be right. You've got to be matching the user expectation. And sometimes it takes time to float up to that #1 result. We can't guarantee the #1 spot or even a first spot for anybody. Sometimes some of our clients have parallax single page websites and they want to rank, you know, in the top spot or in the top 10 with some very big brands. And that's a challenge because you don't have enough content. That's a clear path that we can take to get there. But Will, you know, what are some of the things right off the bat you can think of? One, to answer the time question, how long does it take? And #1, how do we help them get to that #1 spot?
In terms of how long it takes, it's anywhere from 30 to 90 days is a realistic expectation. So if you go and you optimize your website or you post a blog, and there are exceptions, as Thomas said, you know, there are times where if it's very topical, it's a newsworthy subject or something like that, that the searches are trending up, you could capture that top spot, just as Thomas said, by being first out of the gate. But typically when you're looking at you know, standard optimizations, things like that, it's gonna take about 30 to 90 days to really start to see movement. You might see a little bit of movement after 30 days, a little bit more after 60 days, and then you know, maybe you're breaking that first page after 90 days or so. But there's not, unfortunately, and this is another, you know, difference between the paid search and the SEO that makes people a little more reluctant, but there's not a guarantee. It's a strategic approach. You're investing in a strategy, not just a task list to accomplish a goal. The goal is there. But it takes ongoing strategy. And so you might start with one, and there's been times that I've started with one strategy, and then after 30 days, I was like, well, that strategy is not working. We got to pivot. And we would pivot to another strategy, and then that strategy started to work. So you have to be flexible and adaptable to maintain your SEO. And so that's kind of the overview to answer your question.
And that's really key, because one of the things that you've got to understand is you have to be able to review your data. You've got to look at your analytics and be able to switch and pivot quickly, as opposed to just riding something out because you think it's going to work. Data will point you to success, and sometimes that success does take a little bit longer. So great questions. Continue to have those coming in. Now let's pivot back over. Let's look at the off-page SEO stuff. So these are a little bit complex in how we think about the things that we can't influence that really impact our SEO. So we'll share a little bit about the off-page SEO and site trust, which can be confusing sometimes, as well as that authority score and your backlink.
Yeah, so when it comes to site trust, this could probably be a whole seminar. So I'll try to be as brief as possible, but it's basically how much search engines trust your website. And that's very important, especially now in the era of, you know, not so true news outlets and a lot of dramatizations of things. And so there's a high emphasis right now on trustability of websites. And so that's something that, as Thomas said, it's a little abstract and it's not a direct, you can't just go in and click a few buttons and then your site has more trust. In the same way, it's a strategy, it's a content strategy, it's a strategy in how you position yourself online, how your website is laid out. And there's a lot of things that go into that. I'm not going to get into the details of that, but we are happy to talk about that separately offline if that's something that you want to know more about. But then this also covers linking. So linking from other websites to your sites, these are called backlinks. And backlinks are a primary way that search engines do establish trust. So if a site over here that's been around for a long time, they're a trusted source. If they link back to a page on your site, that's kind of like giving you some credibility. And the more that happens, the higher your trust will go and the more likely you are to rank higher for the search terms that you want to rank for. And then social media. So just the interaction, this is again an indirect effect to SEO. It's not a one-to-one, you know, when you post a link on Facebook, you gain authority. It doesn't work that way because of the way that social media links are set up, but it's just creating that healthy interaction to where what's going on your social media is cohesive with what's going on your website. It feels like the same experience. You're pointing people back and forth, and there's a healthy interaction there that just enhances the overall user experience and can indirectly positively affect your SEO.
So, well, let me jump in and we'll do a plug and an example here of how to create a backlink for those that are members of the Coast Chamber, right? So a lot of members have links from the main chamber website that would go to their website. That would be a quality backlink. And if you're sitting there right now and you don't know if you've done that or not, then you need to get with Katie or somebody else on your team and really understand how to log in and manage that chamber master account so that you can link from the chamber to your website. And that's an easy way to generate some immediate backlinks from a really quality website to your site.
Yeah, and along the same lines, online listings, sites and things like that for your industry or local, we actually have a tool that can scan a lot of the top listing websites and confirm that your information is correct or it's there and not missing. So that's another really good opportunity to not only build those backlinks, but to make sure that you're well represented on websites where people may go to find the business that, you know, the industry that you're in.
And then real quickly, I want to touch on the technical SEO components because a lot of times these will be out of your control unless you're really techie or can build not just the content, but understand the back end of the CMS, whether it's WordPress or another tool to be able to utilize those SEO components. But a good partner will help you solve for these things. Your site speed. There's lots of things that can happen within how the code is built to slow down your site, and know that 3 seconds is where you need to be, or Google will give another website a preference. And it may even start attaching a badge that says your website is slow to load. So imagine you do all this work, you get on the front page, you make your way up to the 1, 2, or 3 spot, and whether you're still there and there's a badge that says this page is slow to load, and somebody has looked at it on their, you can't see the phone because of the screen, and they've looked on it on this thing, they're gonna skip over you. So you've got to make sure your site speed is done. Site security, how secure is your site for users, especially if you're doing any e-commerce or collecting information. Your structured data, which is just, again, some of these code things that can easily reported on, or difficult to fix if you're not very aware of how to do that. And then the functionality, and I go about it on this way. Can you use your website in a way that is pleasing to you to get where you need to be? If you can't, then somebody that doesn't know anything about your brand is certainly going to have even a larger challenge. So technical SEO can impact it not just behind the scenes, but in that user experience as well. So how do we fix some of the stuff for on-page SEO? And this is where our research, new content, which we talked about, if you wanted to move up the ranks or strengthen your authority score or have more content listed for more keywords, new content is really the key to go. A lot of times we'll build a website, even if it's a small brochure site, 4 to 5 pages, and we'll just leave it there because it's got all the information that we need. Well, Google wants you to continue to add more content to that to make it more robust, even if it's about experiences or adding in testimonials or just doing little bits of content updates can really go a long way in how that content is seen as trustworthy and authoritative and fresh, which can make a huge impact in your SEO. So that's one of the easiest things to do. Make sure you're telling new stories. And then ultimately, it's not a one and done. So even if you go through SEO and you have a report done and you make a change, you've got to continually monitor and keep up with that wave. Otherwise, you get left behind. Because here's the other thing that Will and I deal with is the algorithms from Google change frequently and there's no schedule. And sometimes it impacts specific industries. Sometimes it's big time and it's going to impact what they call YMYL, which are industries that impact your money and your life, right? So finance, it's going to impact. Healthcare, it could impact in some different ways. E-commerce, it could have an update that all it does is impact e-commerce. We've seen updates that do nothing but impact real estate. So you have to stay current, especially if you're in a specific industry. And it's not always something you're going to be able to find from Google. You have to really get into these technical groups and see and monitor some of these blogs that will share, hey, we're seeing some volatility in our rankings. Did anybody else see this? And then, user-generated content, and we're able to pinpoint what's happening. So ongoing options are a must. You can't just be one and done when you're thinking about your content. So keyword research is a big, definer of where we need to be and the things that we need to talk about. So Will, tell us about these 4 you've labeled in here and why this is important.
Yeah, so this is just a level overview of a healthy approach to keyword research. And there's several tools out there. As I mentioned before, we use a tool called SEMrush. It's semrush.com. But there's tools like Moz, M-O-Z. There's ahrefs.com. There is Neil Patel has a free keyword research tool at neilpatel.com. And basically these are the what you're looking for when you're doing keyword research. So as I mentioned before, it's not about just taking a specific keyword and littering it all throughout your website, because actually that can have an adverse effect for SEO, because now search engines, there's almost like a limit where it becomes keyword stuffing, and you can actually have some negative ramifications for search rankings and things like that. So you want to have a really good, robust, healthy keyword research performed to find out not just the one highest performing keyword that you want to put all over your site, but what are the related terms as well? What are all of those? Having a more holistic content strategy that kind of takes on a lot of those search terms. But these are the 4 things that we look at top level to evaluate those keywords. We look for monthly search volume that is desirable. Typically a medium to high search volume is anything 500 to 1,000 searches a month. That means that someone's searching for it 500 times a month somewhere across the world, or across, we actually typically limit it to the US, but we can pull those numbers worldwide as well. But 500 to 1,000 is considered medium search volume, and then anything above 1,000 is considered high search volume. So we look for keywords that have a medium or high search volume. But in addition to that, we also look at the competition level. So how many search results come back for that search? If there's a ton of search results, then the likelihood of being able to reach that first page is lower and lower. So we try to find a sweet spot where it's a medium to high search volume, but also a medium to low level of competition, so that the reality of ranking on the first page for that keyword is a little more realistic. And then you look at stuff like, is it a search term where Wikipedia has the first result? If they do, you're probably never going to be number 1. They're going to stay number 1. Is it, if you look at that first page and it's Wikipedia and Amazon and eBay and this and that, if you're in e-commerce, maybe that's not the keywords you go for, because getting on that first page might be a little bit of a long shot. So we assess the competition.
With those, you're not going to be able to outbid them either. So you're not going to be able to go to a paid search tactic and win a cost per click with Amazon or eBay or any of those stuff.
Yeah. And then we try to make the keywords as broad as possible, but as relevant as possible. So one mistake we see people make when they choose a primary or target group of search terms for their content is that they get a little bit in the weeds with either industry terminology or something like that. It needs to be something that people are searching for, something that people that are potential customers, potential business for you would be searching for. So you have to imagine that they don't have any idea about your business. I mean, we've got clients that work in, construction or healthcare or finance. And sometimes the tendency is to get in those little niche keywords and, the search volume's not going to be there. The competition may be low because nobody's trying to rank for those keywords, but it's not going to be a really fruitful campaign for you, even if you do rank on the first page, because, it doesn't matter if you're right in front of the window, if it's the back window, you want to be on the front window. So, and then the last thing that we look at, not the last thing, but the last thing on this list that I wanted to call out is the click rate. And so this is something we've started examining over the last probably 3 or 4 years with the rise of voice search and, Amazon Alexa and Google Home and things like that and Siri, because we now have what we call zero-click keywords. And so as a result of things like voice search, we now have Google snippets. You've probably seen this. You go, if you type in, most common example is a definition. So if you go and you type in SEO definition, you're probably going to get a box at the top of the Google search result page that just tells you a paragraph and it says SEO is blah, blah, blah. And you're probably not going to click on anything because your question was answered right then. So we go in and we make sure for each keyword, whether or not it's a zero-click keyword, if there's a snippet there that answers the question, again, why would you target that keyword? Because someone's going to get their question answered, and they're, even if you're, top 3 search results on that page, you're not going to get any traffic for it.
Well, we had another question that came in, so I want to speak to this. But before I do that, this is really important. This is really technical, but that zero click just means that Google's going to bring that quality information forward right into the search results. So that user doesn't have to click or do anything to get the information that they're looking for. And then they can pursue that click to call if they're on mobile, or that click to connect to email if they're on the desktop. So here's the question. This is a big one, so let's unpack it for a second. But it's, should I hire a firm to build my presence, or is this something I can do myself? Many entrepreneurs that we work with do this themselves. My answer is always going to be, I want you to be really good at what you're really good at, and whether that's promoting the business, selling the product, pushing the service, and then find a great partner that can do all of these really complex things for you. But depending on the system that you're using, whether it's a really user-friendly UX like Wix or Squarespace, you can do this yourself. At some point, you're going to graduate out of that as your business grows, and you're going to want to move out of that incubator space and into a really enterprise level or a really advanced SEO system. So, Will, what are your thoughts on that? Because I know that you do this both ways. You do it for us, but you've also gone out on your own and built some properties.
Yeah, I think the answer to that is it depends. It depends, first of all, on your level of interest in SEO and how willing you are to stay up to date. If it's something that you're already interested in, then yeah, the example Thomas just gave is likely that, depending on what CMS you're using, you can probably go in and figure a lot of it out. My only caveat to that is make sure that you're tracking it, because you can do a lot of work, and then if you have no idea if it's actually working, you don't know if you're doing the right thing or not. So really it all comes down to, are you measuring it, and are you able to track those keywords? So if you want to personally invest in a platform where you can track keywords and pull monthly metrics and things like that, just to see how you're doing. But as Thomas said, it just depends on what scale you want to do it. Like I'm not a carpenter or a construction worker, but I could read instructions and build a swing set in my backyard for my kids, But if I wanted a house, I mean, I've got the ability to probably learn and watch YouTube videos and read how to do it, but that's probably something best left to somebody that knows what they're doing. They're going to do it quicker. I won't have to quit my job and sustain a bunch of injuries and things like that.
I love that example, well, because you're also talking about time and efficiency. So you can do it, right? How long is it going to take you, and how efficient are you going to be versus investing in it and bringing in a partner? But I think the next slide actually talks a lot about one of the things. If you wanted to do this yourself, here's one of the key things that Google is looking at within your content, and it's really the E principle. So Google's algorithm has tons and tons of little things that measure, but ultimately it comes down to these three qualities right now that we're seeing. So walk us through the EAT.
Yeah, so EAT stands for expertise, authoritative, and trustworthy. So any content on your website can be viewed through this filter. And so you can look at it even if it's your contact page. And obviously blog posts where you're writing about specific topics, but even your homepage, about page, all that stuff. If you look at it through this filter, it can give you a good idea of probably how a search engine views your page. But expertise is, are you positioning yourself as an expert? And that doesn't mean getting bogged down in the weeds with detailed and hoity-toity language or anything like that. It just means, are you speaking like an expert? Is it professionally written? Is it in line with what someone would expect an expert in the field to sound like? And then authoritative, does it show that you're an authority? So you're not just an outside observer, you're actually a participant, you're an authority, you are in that industry, and you are accomplished, and you are doing things. And then is it trustworthy? Is everything that you're saying true? Can it be backed up by facts? The claims that you make for your business, are those true? This is, testimonials, things like that really help out with trustworthiness. And so those are the EAT, and this is not something that we came up with. This is something Google actually posted on their webmaster blog. They said, this is the criteria we use to judge good content. And so obviously we've just taken that and applied it to everything because, Google is very tight-lipped about a lot of things, but the fact that they came out and said, hey, this is our criteria, we're going to take that seriously.
Got it.
And this is just a visual representation of what it looks like. You start with research. If you work with an agency like us, we produce a guide, and then the guide for that content is developed and placed on the website.
And it is very robust. It's more information than you ever probably want to deal with on your own, but it opens up so many keys and doors as we begin strategy and really thinking about what does that website need to do for us. And then ongoing, we talked about how important that ongoing optimization is. Well, here's what it really looks like. One is you're going to monitor. You need to see the trends. You're going to be able to see keywords that jump so that you can take advantage of it, especially if they're in your space. There's tools that you can use in Google, your Google Analytics, and your Google Search Console. There's also a great one called Google Trends, where you can just go to Google Trends, type in words, and it'll show you how popular it is. Metrics that matter. So also identifying the right things to monitor, to look at as you're going through this. The keyword traffic, the rankings, what your competitors are doing, backlinks, all that stuff. And then refreshing content. That doesn't mean you have to do it daily, but at least once a quarter, really think about what new should I add into my website? What new should we talk about? What new can I bring into the face to really feed into that EAT principle that we know is very popular for people right now? And then ultimately, consult a specialist. Who do you need to reach out to that's a quality partner that can help you through this process? Whether that's the strategy to get up so that you know you're spending right, or whether that's actually the implementation and execution, to where you can have a specialist like Will that actually talks with you once a month or once a quarter to really deep dive and focus on here's where we need to go and here's what the data points that we're seeing. But this is what that ongoing looks like. And then we did see a question. So Miriam, if you did have a question, just let us know. We're happy to jump in and answer it. So on our ongoing optimizations here, Will, on our platform, it's really monitor, recommend, and then revise. And that revise is really your execute. So you have to make those changes. You can't just sit on any of that data that you're looking at. And I believe we've got a slide that's going to talk about all these tools that we've looked at. So you'll have that. Me and Katie, we're going to provide this deck so all the members will be able to have access to it so they can go through it at their own pace as well. And now we're looking at optimization for off-page. And this is where it gets a little bit difficult to think about, my site trust and my authority. how do I find? It's very easy to find those numbers. It's much more difficult to influence those numbers once you have them, but it's easy to find them. Monitoring backlinks is something that we like to do. And we even look for backlinks that can detract from your SEO. And that's what we call a toxic backlink. And Will's got some great tools that through our partners, we can find those and we can actually tell Google, hey, we want you to ignore any of these toxic backlinks that could cause a negative to our SEO. So that's something that's important to look at. And if you don't know, you don't know. So you're not empowered to take that information and create a positive out of it. And then thirdly, your social strategy. So you can't just have, in today's climate, a website. It's got to be supported with ongoing content, with SEO. That link back from, say, your social post may not be a direct boost, but the amount of traffic that it can provide to what we call a referral link is very vital and very important to see. And then trust and authority. So we'll just take a second here and talk us through this trust, because this is one of these higher concept things, but it's very important to how you rank and how you compete for that first page.
Yep. So trust and authority, those are kind of synonymous. We call it in our reports the authority score. That's how SEMrush, the platform that we use, how they identify that trust, called an authority score. But it's basically measured by a number of different factors like traffic, backlinks, the EAT quality of your content that we just talked about. But it's really a holistic score that just is reflective of how much a search engine trusts your website. And that trust, as I mentioned earlier, is going to impact your rankings. But the best way to gain trust, this is a question we get a lot, is, okay, well, now I know my trust score. How do I gain trust? It's the overall, I mean, if you are in a position in your business where you're overseeing website and content and things like that, it's just create quality content. Take that EAT criteria, start creating quality content, start revising the content on your website to fall in line with that. And then everything else falls in line after that. The other factor is backlinks, the other main factor, and that's something that there's various strategies that you can go after to obtain quality backlinks. But I always tell people, just focus on the quality of the content. That's the way to go.
That opens up a lot of stuff. So, with your backlinks, monitor monthly. There's tools that we'll share. You can do that. Create that EAT content. That's going to help because people are going to find it and share it organically because you're creating good content. Watch out for those toxic backlinks that can be blocked. And then also develop a backlink strategy. We've already given you the first tip to be able to do that is, reach out to Katie and make sure you're in the Chamber Master Program so the Chamber can link back to your website and you'll start that process of growing those backlinks. So social media and SEO, this is something that's very near and dear to me. At Infinity, I lead the social team, which is about 5 folks. We have clients in tons of different verticals all across the United States. But we see the effects that this has on your website all the time because that traffic coming back through, we can directly see was impacted because of the SEO and because of the social sharing. So this is important. Create a positive relationship between the two. You can't separate them out. They have to work cohesively. And then for technical SEO, these are some of the things that may be out of your scope, and we really recommend before you dig around in there, either familiarize yourself with your specific CMS or really understand some of the fundamental components of what SEO is and how to manage it. And that includes some really technical things like your schema markup, your header tags, your header H1, H2s, and also understanding the differences in how you place that content. And if you don't know any of those terms that I just mentioned, that's okay. Probably means technical SEO, you've got some learning to do before you can really get in there and start messing around and make some improvements. But you've got to consistently scan and monitor it for changes that happen in those technical markups. Keep things up to date. Make sure if there's a fundamental change in how things are used or how it's recommended from Google, you want to adopt that and then address those issues quickly. Don't let them linger. If you know your site speed is slow, don't let it just sit there. If you know that you only have an HTTP web address as opposed to an HTTPS web address, don't let that linger. Because when you do get ready to move into things like paid media tactics, that could impact even your paid tactics, and you don't want to start off with a negative. So here's some things to look for in the technical. Technical audits are important. Infinity has several that can be automated. Here's one that you see that shows the number of pages on a website that was crawled, the number of errors, and the number of warnings. Warnings are more like, hey, these things can be improved of. They're not wrong, but there's some efficiencies that can be created there. So those you don't focus on as much, but those errors you would want to deal with as soon as possible, which could be broken page links, could be site speed is bad on some pages because of how the coding stack is developed. Another technical term there, we're talking about lots of JavaScript and other things that are building onto it. That's what you'd want to address. But the theme is, if you don't know, you don't know. So you can't even bring it forward to anybody else to make a change. So monitor monthly, fix quickly, and have a trusted partner that can really walk through these things. And Will and I will tell you, there is no secret sauce. There's nothing that we can do technically that is different than any other SEO company that you'll work with. The differences that we found is, one, the honesty in the relationship and the transparency of what we're doing. Because if you want to be trained up and you want to take this on and learn how to do it, Will would love to sit down with you and create some training sessions to show you all the steps to take. But if you want to focus on making your business as good as it can be and let another partner come in and make sure your SEO is as good as it can be, that's where Will can step in and do all those things for you. So, frequently asked questions. What do we see a lot about? What tools do you use? And Will has done a great job at creating this list and walking us through it. So here's some of the things that we've been talking about that now you'll be able to have. So SEMrush, it's a great platform. In fact, for those DIYers, you can go through and get certified for free in a couple of different platforms and really learn the fundamentals of SEO and the language from technical to content. Great courses, great opportunities. Google Analytics shows you all the things happening on the back end of your website, how users visit it, if it's quality traffic. If you've got a lot of traffic, but you're not selling anything or not getting any signups, may not be great quality traffic. Google Analytics can point that out. Google Search Console, Google Trends, obviously Google Ads is something that we work with at Infinity. We have over 26 folks that place Google Ads, and they're all certified in multiple categories for them. So we really understand the tools that are there. And then one of Will's favorite tools, and I'll let him share what it is, in Screaming Frog and what that does.
Really, this is just on the list because I think it annoys Thomas that I wanted to include it, because then he has to say Screaming Frog. But no, it's a web crawler that pulls a lot of the technical aspects from your website, like those coding issues, the images and the file names and the file sizes, a lot of back end kind of nerdy stuff, but it's very useful in SEO and it's free. That's why I put it on this list. And so if you are a little bit technical and you want to pull some of that information and look at it, Screaming Frog is a great resource for that.
Yep. And then also, I mentioned earlier those certifications, but you can do these. So you can go and look at SEMrush for some of these things to really understand what's going on in the space. And you can go to Google and get certified in a lot of things too. They give you a broader explanation of what's happening and how you can impact that. And it also may make you more confident when you go to talk to people or find a partner for those services. You can speak the language, you understand it. There's a lot of SEOs, they use a lot of jingoisms, right? So they hit a lot of terms that may be unfamiliar to you because they sound cool, but really don't do anything. But these certifications will give you a really good baseline. So Will and I are certified in SEMrush, Google Ads certified. Infinity is a Google Premier Partner, which puts us in the top 3% of all agencies that work with certifications and with Google. So we really understand the value of those certifications. And well, we had another question that came through. So as I move over to the next slide, I'm going to let you jump in here and we can talk about it. But do SEOs differ from Google to Facebook since you can search in both?
Yes, it is different. And it's different per platform. And there's a lot of search platforms. So YouTube is actually a search engine in and of itself. And so all of these are search engines. Podcasts are search engines. Apple Podcasts, Spotify is a search engine. And so there is SEO available for all of these search engines. However, the data is limited. We have a lot of data from Google, Bing, Yahoo, the major search engines, even YouTube. There's a lot of data available from YouTube. Facebook is not one that we've been given access to enough data to really optimize. I mean, the number one way to really optimize for Facebook is going to be hashtags. And those aren't even really super effective in my experience. So Facebook's going to be more about networking. It's going to be more about building that audience, boosting posts and things like that to make sure that you get maximum visibility. And so, I don't think there's a lot of people using the search function to find products or things like that. They may be maybe to find businesses or services or things like that. So there may be an opportunity there. But I think for that, it's just making sure your address and your contact information and your website and everything is present in your bio of your business's Facebook page and things like that. Other than that, I don't think there's a whole lot of ways to optimize for search. I think it's just about building those connections.
Yeah. The only tool you really have, and it's on your website, is your Open Graph, which is another technical markup. I talked about schema, which is one, but Open Graph is a specific tool that allows the social sites to understand the website that you're sharing. Because how many of you have seen this? And I'm not going to name it, but we all visit a couple of the media sites on the coast, whether it's a TV station or a newspaper, and you see a picture that looks like this. It's chin to chest, and it's shared on social. That's because they haven't implemented Open Graph, because Open Graph would have a specific image and a specific description, some of those technical SEO components that we would want to see in our snippet or our SERP, our search engine result page listing. Those are some tools that you can impact, but ultimately on Facebook, it's more involved than anything. The brands that you like, the brands that your friends like in an overwhelming fashion, and also the things that you tag are going to populate in that search before anything else, because it thinks it's more relevant to you. It has a much more push algorithm than Google, which is a pull. It wants to collect more data from you as opposed to push. All right, so here's another good question, and please keep them coming online. We're just going to some FAQs to kind of spark some conversation, but keep those questions coming in. And the question here is, why don't you just focus on keywords? If I know that people are searching for and all I sell is dog treats, why don't I just put dog treat in every other word and use it as many times as I can on the page? Well, is that going to help me?
Are you asking me?
Yeah, Will, I'm asking you as the SEO specialist.
No,
is that going to help me?
it's not. It's not going to help you. In fact, it's going to hurt you.
Okay. Why is that? It seems counterintuitive.
Yeah. So as I mentioned earlier, I mean, search engines have evolved so much. The technology has evolved to a place where now context is very important. And so you can't just put the keyword in there a bunch of times, because the way the algorithms have evolved, they can actually assess whether or not your page is keyword stuffed or not. And is it written for humans or is it written for robots? And that's the thing too, is, you know, you can rank high by stuffing those keywords, possibly, if it gets past Google. But then if someone gets on your site and it's obvious and it doesn't read really well, are they going to convert? You know, so you want to make your site as pleasing to the reader and the user as possible. So doing that, you know, like I joke about it all the time around the office, but, you know, I don't like, imagine if we keyword stuffed our conversations, you know, where I was just like, thank you for coming to my SEO presentation about SEO. And I'm going to talk about SEO and search engine SEO, and just like, you know, people's heads would explode. So it's just, it's writing like you would talk, conversational, and making it more human. That in the past probably 10 years has proven to rank better than things that are stuffed with a certain keyword.
It also reinforces that need principle, make it natural, make it, you know, all those things that we talked about. So we answered this question, so it was a great one to come in, but you can see we get this often. How long does SEO take? You know, 30 to 90 days is a good measurement. But again, if you've got a single page and you don't have any content, it's either, it can be a non-starter. You may have to think about what the entire site ecosystem looks like. Or if you're really on it and you're paying attention and you're doing that ongoing management and monetization of your paid search and your organic search, you know, there's opportunity to rank next day. It doesn't always have to take that long. But man, you've got to be really advanced and really on your game to be able to capitalize on those situations. Generally, we're going to see 30 to 90 days. We'd like to see the needle move in some pretty significant ways. All right, how often does Google update that algorithm? We talked about this for a minute. In 2019, there were 7 confirmed and 4 unconfirmed algorithm updates in 2019. So that's almost 1 a month. There was a change of some sort impacting your business, and your business is how you stay on that front page. So it happens a lot more frequently than you think. And then how can you stay informed about more trends? We've talked about some of these tools. Well, these tools also have great blogs and content pushes that come out of them. So SEMrush, Moz, Ahrefs, all big authoritative SEO sources. Search Engine Journal is a great one. Sometimes you can find out some things specifically to your energy or your industry. And if you're thinking about learning more in online webinars and seminars, they can provide some of those for you. And then Google Webmaster. So that's also a place for webs to get really techy or really high end, or to ask your questions directly to Google and to the people that support that network. All right, to the group, we've got just a couple minutes left. We would love to answer and take any other questions that you may have. Drop them into the Q&A pool or drop them into the webinar chat. And as we do that, I just want to thank, Hancock Whitney for helping be a sponsor here. Obviously, Goodwill of South Mississippi was something that I worked with and actually volunteered with down there. So thank them for being a sponsor, and the Gulf Coast Vet Clinic. So thank you, or Gulf Coast Vet Hospital, I believe. So they upgraded the hospital.
Thomas, you took the words right out of my mouth. Thank you.
Thank you.
While we're waiting for those to come in too, we do have a couple of events coming up, and you can see those in your chat. Tomorrow we have the Coast Centurion Association, which is like our military affairs committee. It's a commander's update with Keesler Air Force Base and the CB base in Gulfport. So that will be tomorrow at 3 p.m. And then Friday we have best practices from an advocate featuring Angie Juzang, and I believe that is at 10 a.m. And both of those links to register are right there on the chat box. Do we have any other questions coming in?
And as we wait for those, if we don't have any, what we'd love for you to do is to reach out to Will. You see some information on there, you see his phone number, you see his email address. We're having a challenge with email right now with anybody that has an M in their name at Infinity. That server is down for Microsoft. So 2020 strikes again. We're hoping to fight through this as best we can. You can reach out to Katie. She will help you get in contact with us, but we'd love to offer a free SEO health assessment for your website. So if you're curious about some of these things and what it looks like, reach out to Katie. We will get in touch with you and actually go through and produce a report for you so you can see these things. No obligation at all. We just want you to be informed so that you can know what's going on with your website if you're interested in something like that. That includes some ADA compliance. So we want to make sure that your website is hitting all the legal buckets that it needs to from the sign point of the ADA Act. And then also looking at your technical and your on-page and those kind of components. We did have a question that just rolled through. I'm reading it live. So what are your thoughts posting long website links on social? Should you try to avoid doing that and use a shortening URL site instead of something like Bitly? I prefer the shorteners, but here's the other trick. If I put the URL into the thing as a link share and that post populates, so I suddenly see the image and I see the copy, I can just delete the whole link out of that post. And then just the post itself, when somebody clicks on it, will take them there. So you can use a shortener. We use it all the time. But if I'm doing a share, I'll also pull that link out of there if it's really long and really cluttered, especially if it's a good PR piece and maybe it came from a newspaper site or something like that that has a really unrecognizable URL. It's a great practice just to pull it out once it's populated in. It won't impact how people get to you at all. Will, any thoughts there? Any closing thoughts from you, Will, as we end up?
This isn't directly the question, but from an SEO perspective, if it's in your control, make those URLs as concise as possible.
That's true.
Not too concise, but we've had a lot of clients that we've had to restructure a lot of their URLs because they were very lengthy. They put the entire blog title with dashes, in their thing. So if it's in your control, try to make it as concise as possible. But no, closing thoughts. Thank you guys for listening. Call me, don't email me right now because there's no email, but I love to talk about SEO. It's the world that I live in. So if you have any further questions or are inquisitive about anything I talked about that you want to learn more, feel free to reach out. And as Thomas said, we're happy to connect.
Yep.
Thank you, Thomas and Will, both of you so much for taking the time to do this today. And once again, we are back in the office. So if you need to contact us, please go to our website at mscoastchamber.com. We're not taking any in-office visits, but we are there. So feel free to call us or email us. Thomas, Will, great job today. Do y'all have any closing thoughts or anything you want to leave us, little tidbits?
Look, I'll shut it down. Just thank you so much again for this time and to reconnect with the folks on the coast. If you have any questions, please reach out. We're happy to do so. And we would love to do this again. So anytime you need us, give us a call. We're happy to jump on. Like we said, a lot of these components can be full-hour sessions just within how to fix your content or how to fix your off-page. Happy to do that for this chamber and for your members. So thanks so much for the invitation. We look forward to talking soon.
All right. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. Once again, I hope you have a great chamber day. This session was recorded and it will be on our Facebook and YouTube pages by Thursday. If you would like the slide deck or any information like that, I'll be happy to email it to you. My email can be found on our website, mscoastchamber.com. My email is Katie, Katie, at mscoastchamber.com. And on that note, Thomas, Will, thank you both so much. It was a pleasure. Bye, everybody. Have a great day.